Good start? Okay. Oh, gonna wait for... Okay, great. We're ready to start. I'm sorry for the delay, everyone, but welcome. And welcome to the Albany Unified School District Board of Education regular meeting. Today is December 9th, and we are calling to order at 6:17 p.m. Could we get a roll call, please, to establish quorum?
Student Trustee Chodak.
Here.
Student Trustee Shepard.
Here.
Trustee Boyd.
Here.
Trustee Inglis.
Here.
Trustee Khan is absent tonight. Vice President Mahoney.
Here.
President Hopwood.
Yeah.
Superintendent Stone.
Here. Thank you. And now we will have our student trustees read our mission statement and meeting norms.
The mission of Albany Unified School District is to provide excellent public education that empowers all to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. AUSD is committed to creating comprehensive learning opportunities in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment, addressing the individual needs of each student.
Meeting norms. Number 1, maintain a focus on what is best for our students. Number 2, ensure a safe environment for all views to be expressed, treating each other, staff, and the public respectfully. Number 3, endeavor to find common solutions to issues through collaboration without sacrificing one's beliefs in what is best for students. Number 4, make a commitment to effective deliberation, each one listening with an open mind, while others are allowed to express their own points of view, even if one disagrees.
Thank you both. And before we move on to meeting agenda approval, I just want to mention that we've had major technical issues this evening, so we are unable to offer Zoom. People can still watch the YouTube stream, but if you want to make public comment, you're going to need to be here in person, I'm afraid. So now we are on approved meeting agenda. Do we have any questions or any items we want to pull? Are we to approve that? Would like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
So the agenda passes as is, and now Vice President Mahoney will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I'm going to hand the next one over because I'm not doing this piece. Yes, exactly. Well, I have your attention. Yeah, so apparently recognition of outgoing board president. I'm going to hand over to Superintendent Stone.
And I am going to go and stand over there to do this. All right, so good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be here, and it is absolutely my honor to recognize outgoing President Hopwood tonight. I, as we all know, have been here for a very short time. I actually just had my year anniversary as superintendent of Albany Unified School District, and I have been so fortunate to be able to have President Hopwood by my side, supporting, talking me through, and helping me to do the work that we all are working towards in terms of supporting our students. And I would say that one of the things I just want to mention about President Hopwood is just her absolute commitment to creating the most excellent experience for kids in this district as possible, and also really holding us all accountable to collaboration and to holding spaces like this in a way that shows our community is a caring community. So it is absolutely my pleasure to have been able to work with her, and I am with a tear. I will be missing that connection that we have, and I do want to honor you with this beautiful plaque. Our incredible executive assistant, Julie Shen, put this together for you, and what it says is, Becky Hopwood, President of Board of Education, December 2024 to 25. With gratitude for your leadership, Albany Unified School District, rooted in community, rising in possibility, presented December 9th, 2025.
Thank you. I will just say thank you to Superintendent Stone for her kind words, and it's been an honor to serve as president of the board, and I just want to mention my appreciation and acknowledgement for all the hardworking people in the district, for the collaboration of my board peers, for the engagement of our amazing community. Thank you all for being here. For our educators, our staff, our students, for the leadership of our superintendent, and for everyone in the district who show such commitment to our district values every day. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you. Still here, looking forward to supporting whoever the next president will be. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, so now that we've recognized our outgoing board president, it is time for us to do the annual reorganization of the board. And so, thank you. I definitely need the, yes, awesome. Okay, so so I am going to preside over this first part of the reorganization, and that is to nominate and vote for a new president. So the first part of the process is I am going to ask each trustee if they are interested in assuming an officer role. And if trustees would like to, you may provide a brief statement. So I'm going to start with trustee Melissa Boyd.
No, thank you. I'm good.
Trustee Dana Ingles. Okay, yes. Wonderful. Trustee Sadia Khan is not here tonight, so she will not be able to be a part of the election. Trustee Josh Mahoney.
Yes, I'd be interested.
Wonderful. And Trustee Becky Hopwood.
No, thank you so much. As much of a pleasure it's been. Very good.
Okay. Moving along, trustees may nominate themselves or another board member, or may decline to make a nomination. If more than one nominee is presented for a position, names will be drawn randomly to determine the order of votes. Voting begins with student board members' preferential votes, and if there is a tie, a runoff vote will be conducted. So I am going to start with any nominations for, office of president.
I would like to make a nomination.
Yes.
I would like to nominate my amazing Vice President, Josh Mahoney, for the role of president.
Wonderful. And are there any other nominations? Okay. So now it is time for public comment. Is there any public comment? As I see none, we are going to move towards voting for president. And again, we are going to be starting with our student trustees. And is this a roll call? Yeah, okay. Will you do the roll call?
Sure.
Thank you.
Student trustee Chodak.
Yes.
Student trustee Shepherd, excuse me.
Yes.
Trustee Boyd.
Yes.
Trustee Inglis.
Yes.
Vice President Mahoney.
Yes.
President Hopwood.
Yes.
Okay. Yeses have it.
So it seems that we have a new president of our school board for the next year. So congratulations, President Mahoney. And the gavel will be now passed to you, and now you are going to hold the rest of the meeting.
Thank you. I guess now we do the nominations for vice president. I'm calling for nominations for the vice president. Are there any nominations? Go
I
ahead.
would like to nominate Trustee Inglis for the role of Vice President.
Any other nominations? I guess there's only one. Okay. Public comment on Trustee Inglis's nomination? Hearing none, I now call for a vote for the vice presidency.
Okay. Student trustee Chodak.
Yes.
Student trustee Shepherd.
Yes.
Trustee Boyd.
Yes.
Trustee Inglis.
Yes.
Trustee Hopwood.
Yes.
President Mahoney.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations. You're the vice president. Oh. Oh. And now I move to appoint Superintendent Stone as the board secretary. We need to take a vote on that?
You can do a roll. You can do. It's fine. In favor. It's fine. We do need a second for this one.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations on being the secretary again. Now we're moving on to general public comment period, or comments about items that are not on the agenda pursuant to the Brown Act. The board may not comment or act on items posted on the agenda except as permitted under the government code. We're limited to 2 minutes per speaker. As mentioned earlier, unfortunately, Zoom is not working, so we cannot take comment remotely, but is there anybody in the room who has public comment for something not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to our reports, starting with our student board member reports.
Last Tuesday, Trustee Back and Superintendent Stone and Ms. Julie, we went to Sacramento for the California School Board Association's conference, and we took the opportunity to learn from and share with other student board members across California. In particular, we focused on how student board members can support stronger student feedback within a school system.
And additionally, during a meeting with Superintendent Stone and the AHS Principal McNally, we introduced a new preliminary design for a new student-run committee called the Superintendent Student Advisory Committee. We discussed how it will fit into current and adjusted student feedback avenues, its implementation, and who will be on it. And for future steps, we're continuing to clear up how current student leadership will fit into the system, preparing for recruitment and implementation to start in January, and exploring other avenues for student feedback integration, such as occasionally involving the student trustees in executive meetings. Additionally, it could be beneficial to meet with everyone involved in the system to make sure everyone is on the same page.
If there's any interest for more details, we can present the Superintendent Student Advisory Committee, the student feedback system, and any other expected changes formally at a later date. That concludes our report.
Thank you. Now, Labor Partners reports.
We got two of us tonight, which is nice. Hi, I'm Jen Gritman, and I'm here on behalf of Albany Teachers Association. The last couple of weeks since we've met here, a lot of our focus has really been in standing in solidarity with the United Teachers of Richmond, our neighboring locals who are reaching impasse, and locals across the state who are taking bold steps to fight for the schools our students deserve. Specifically through fully staffed schools, safe and stable schools, and competitive wages and benefits. We hope that Albany's administration and school board will join us to amplify the message that these bold steps are representing. These unions are standing strong, and we really need you to get that message out too, that California schools are suffering. We're all in this together. And the only other thing we have tonight is that we weren't able to meet at our last, for our last collaboration, I forget what we call it, meeting. Yeah, and we're really looking forward to resuming those. We find those to be really, really essential in keeping our transparent communication open. So thank you. That's it for tonight.
Hello, everyone. My name is James Eben. I serve as the Labor Relations Representative for the California School Employees Association. I represent our CSEA members here in the district. It's about approximately 100 classified staff. I'm here with quite a few things, so probably not as brief as you're used to, so my apologies. I do have a few updates just from the chapter itself. This evening, our chapter is actually meeting to appoint its new officers going into the next school year, so we are looking forward to that. And then CSEA is also currently supporting efforts to make Prop 30/55 permanent. We are seeking to remove the 2031 expiration date of this proposition and secure continued funding for K-12 schools. So if anyone is interested in signing a petition, please reach out to some of our newly elected officers. Next up, we did want to bring a number of items to the board, both for awareness and in hopes that we will maybe see some changes moving into the future. First, it is related to negotiations and updates for that. Our chapter continues to be extremely frustrated as we have been in negotiations with the district since April. We are now 8 months in and we have yet to receive a full proposal from the district. This is extremely long, granted that negotiations often do take a long time. However, we, again, have not received a full proposal from the district to this date. We are hoping that we receive that when we meet next week. Additionally, we have expressed this to the negotiations team already, but we do continue to remain frustrated related to the participation of the district team or lack thereof. Our team regularly arrives on time at 9 a.m. for all of our scheduled dates, but the district team appears to not be preparing in between sessions, and so oftentimes we're having to wait anywhere from 1 to 2 hours before the district team will even join us in the room. On top of that, amongst all of our dates, we have had 2 cancellations with less than 1 day notice, the most recent being less than 2 hours before the end of the school day. And then, so that is specific to negotiations. We did want to raise a number of other issues as well for the board. One is related to volunteer approval. Previously, the volunteer approval process was largely handled by our administrative staff, so our like school secretaries, things like that. But that process has changed. Our staff is still doing a large lift of that work. However, we are waiting on human resources to provide a final approval. So currently, volunteers and driver applications are not being reviewed unless HR is specifically asked by one of our staff members to look into a particular individual. There is an automated process through the software that is utilized in Form K-12 that actually provides automatic notifications as well. Our clerical staff are doing their part in reviewing the applications, sending them on to HR for final approval with the expectation, which has been communicated to us, that they will be reviewed within 1 week. However, some applications have sat at Human Resources for months, unopened entirely. Another concern that we have that's impacting our paraeducators is related to student medical plans. We did have an incident, I believe last week now, where a student's medical plan had expired. Our paraeducators and the teachers had notified district administration of this because it was causing the contracted nurse to not be able to assist in a number of issues. And then on December 3rd, that student did experience a seizure in the classroom, and our staff was unable to help at all due to the expiration of that medical plan. We have, as an organization, submitted a number of information requests over the last year in accordance with the Educational Employment Relations Act. Very seldom, if ever, have we ever received a response on time. We always have to reach out after the deadline to encourage and prompt that response, which then we're usually waiting for more than double what our original timeline was. Similarly, we are still waiting for a seniority list of our employees that the district is required to provide to us by October 31st of every year. We did address this informally and submitted a grievance as well to Ms. Gonzalez. We received no response, and so we have escalated that to step 3 with the superintendent as of today. We weren't able to do step 2 because it requires sending it to someone who, to a position that doesn't exist in the district any longer. Also, one issue that we have noticed is contractually, the district does provide a sick bonus to our employees at the end of the year if they don't utilize sick time at all throughout the year. CSEA did have to notify the district at the end of 2025 because no payments were processed. That did end up getting resolved. However, throughout that process, we did also learn that these payments have not been processed for 3 years. And then last year, an employee had sent a number of inquiries to the district related to their schedule and working hours. These inquiries went unanswered by Ms. Gonzalez for months. Eventually, Superintendent Stone did have to step in and guaranteed in May that our employee would soon receive a response. No response was ever given. We had to reach out again 5 months later in October because there was no communication at all. When we did meet with Ms. Gonzalez and discuss this, we did request that the district send communication directly to the employee, and the answer was no, because they had received a number of communications already. We do not believe that to be true. And so we ended up having to send that communication through CSEA to the member because no communication was sent from the district directly. And then that is most of the concerns that we have, or at least the ones that I will present today. I will say the list is a bit longer, but we just want to wrap up by saying that this really does feed into the drafted proposal from the superintendent that was discussed at the retreat last month, specifically related to effectively administering the negotiated bargaining agreements and establishing productive relationships with labor partners. We do hope that in the new year, our partnership can move forward in a more positive direction, and that the contract itself can be followed without CSEA's intervention and reminders to make that happen. Thank you.
you. On to the superintendent reports.
Sorry. Eric, I'm going to send you the presentation for her, if you can put it on. Thanks.
Continued technical difficulties.
Thank you for your patience with our technical difficulties.
Well, while I'm waiting for that, I do just want to appreciate, I have another appreciation tonight, and it's a congratulations. So our student trustee, Shodak, informed me this week that he has been accepted to his first choice university, and not only that, he has a full scholarship. And so I just want to honor that and appreciate him for his really amazingly hard work to do that. So congratulations.
Thank you for the words, yeah. And thank you everyone for the, yeah.
It's a huge accomplishment, and it is exactly what we hope for every single student in this district. So thank you. Are we good? That's somebody's email. We're having a great time tonight. Woohoo! All right. Well, what I'm going to speak about tonight is actually, I want to front load a little bit of what we're going to be doing at our January 13th board study session, and that is doing a deep dive into budgeting. The hope is that it will be a start to the conversations around helping our community and helping our labor partners also understand the process around budgeting, and not just understand the process, but also encouraging people to get as involved as possible in that process, because we do want it to be a collaborative one. So as we know, our current year's priorities came out of data. So we've been talking about these at multiple board meetings: equitable and inclusive instruction, student belonging, and collaborative systems. And so what we are going to be focusing on during that board study session is really in service of ensuring that we have equitable and inclusive instruction, and that we have the conditions set up for student belonging through collaborative systems. Next slide, please. So the purpose of budget development is to align our staffing resources with our enrollment needs. And we have to ensure that our budget matches whatever we are co-constructing and creating in our local control accountability plan, our LCAP, and our school site plans. And these should be aligned with our overall district mission, vision, and values. In order to do this, we have to engage community, including school site councils and staff, in authentic dialogue and decision-making. This all should be based on our student-level data and student-level needs. And this, of course, is something we have to do. We have to meet timelines, state timelines, and it's a compliance experience as well. But ultimately, the purpose of this process is to get what we need to kids along the lines of our ATA partners. We want to make sure that our students have well-staffed classrooms and they have everything that they need to be able to do what our student trustee was able to do, and that is to get to the next thing that he wants to do and move forward and thrive in life. And we need to build transparency and trust through this process. Next slide. So where we are now, we are currently in the process of figuring out enrollment projections. The challenge when we don't know that is we actually don't know really where we're going to be with how much money we get. Our enrollment drives the budget that we receive. And of course, that also tells us what kind of staffing we need. So we're at that place now where we're getting a sense of what we think our enrollment is going to be next year based on our previous data, based on what we know we're starting to receive in terms of applications into our district application. Our enrollment window just opened up last week. And this is going to drive our budgeting and staffing projections. That's happening also right now, and tonight CBO Wu is going to be talking through our first interim and our multi-year projections, and this is really where we can then start to make some good decisions based on the needs of students and also make sure that we're being fiscally responsible. So the months of December through February are really the time for community engagement and site planning. And it is also when we're starting to build our local control accountability plan, our LCAP. The craziest part of our budgeting process is that's all well and good, and then we don't actually find out what our state's funding structure is going to be for public education until January. So we're starting now because we know we need to. We have other things that we have to make sure of. We need to know by March 15th who is going to be coming back in terms of our staffing. We have many, many things that we need to plan and work on, and we won't really even have a sense of what our governor is projecting for the proposed budget until January. But we're still going to keep going, and so between December and March, we are doing our budgeting sessions. And again, our budget is basically our goals and our strategies on paper. In dollars. And so March and February is when we're doing what we're calling budget lock-ins with our site leadership and our departments, and we'll be working on hiring, ensuring that we have the staffing that we need to provide services and supports to kids next year. The other crazy thing is that all happens, and then the governor said in May does a May revise of the budget, and that is actually the money that we can expect to get. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to go through each and every one of these slides, but the next few slides just go a little bit deeper into what is happening. I do want to just note that right now, what we're doing is we're finalizing enrollment projections. We're looking at our special education staffing based on student IEPs, individual education plans. We are going to be asking for intent to return for staff. And then are going, when we get back from our break, we'll have what's called a budget one-pager that we're giving to department leads and principals. And that is basically their enrollment, the number of classrooms, because that's important, because we also have to make sure we can fit all of our students into those learning spaces. And another part of that is the FTE, or full-time equivalents, based on the basic needs to ensure that students are getting their education and that they're safe. And so basic needs would be classroom teachers, classified staff, secretary, custodian, administration that's needed there, anything that we need to do to provide prep per our contracts. And I think that is about what's on that one pager. But that doesn't mean that we won't have other staffing. How that other staffing is going to come about is, again, based on student data, needs, and the goals that are co-developed with the community. And that is why I'm putting in a pitch right now for school sites, councils, and staff engagement, and for schools, for parents and community members and staff to really actively seek out being involved in this process, because we really do need to hear voices and concerns and needs so that we're looking at the same information together. We're making those decisions as well as we can together through that process. All right, and the next few slides, January, February, again, just talking through what's happening in those times. study sessions kickoff. Next slide, please. Site budget development, February, March. Next slide, please. And then those budget lock-ins, which are also really important that we get that done before the legal date of March 15th, when, if unfortunately sometimes districts have to do layoffs, we have to make that notification and by March 15th to any staff, and then it has to be approved by the board. And then we're, as the governor's final budget comes to be, next slide please, we'll be able to do the finalization. And in May, we scrub the budget. What that means is we want to clean it up. We want to make sure that we're really actually being accurate about the numbers, about everything that's there. We want every single penny to go to what it needs to go to for kids. And then we get the May revise. So that is how that works. And so I'm really excited to go deep in January on this process, because I think it's a very complex process. It's taken me 33 years of being an educator to finally understand it. And I think it's something that, if we can all gain the knowledge about this, it will help us to be more collaborative and more connected in working towards the needs of kids. All right, last slide, please. June, we will be bringing the first pass of the budget through a public hearing, and then our final adoption is June 23rd. So I just want to reiterate that the goals for this season, for the budget season, I am very tongue-tied tonight, I apologize. Predictable and transparent budgeting, timely hiring, very strong, I should underline that 7,000 times, very strong community engagement, alignment of school site plans to the LCAP. So our LCAP should actually come from what's happening at the school sites, not the other way around. So the school site plans should be helping us to understand what we need to do as a whole district. And of course, building trust through understanding our collective goals. So, would love to see this room filled on January 13th for our budgeting board study session, and hopefully Zoom will be up and running again, and we will be able to have a lot of participation. It won't be an interactive participation, but hopefully people will be able to tune in. And site leaders are and should already have started engaging community members in this process around goal setting and aligning the budget. And I think that is my last slide. All right, that is my board report. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to board committee updates. Any updates from board members and their committee participation? I have one, because I'm on the Facilities Master Planning Committee. So this was before the Thanksgiving break. We met with HKIT, the firm that we've contracted with. They put out an initial timeline, got feedback from our group, which included teachers, principals, administrators, staff, and community members. We gave them some initial guidance on how to best engage with the community on this process over the next year. We also had a good discussion. They've done some initial site work, and so we had a good discussion of things that they should consider at each of the school district sites as they think about master planning. So that's where we are on that. And now we are on to board reports. Trustee Boyd.
Hello. So I'll just say three things. Firstly, before I forget, I want to make sure we have some holiday events that are coming up in the district. So the Jewish Parent Engagement Group is doing a Hanukkah celebration this Friday at 5 p.m. in the AMS atrium. And then there's a district-wide Winter Wonderland potluck on Sunday, December 14th at 4:30 p.m. in Ocean View's multipurpose room. So for folks who are around and able to celebrate at either or both events, that would be great. I will also share that I got to attend choral music concerts last week, and I believe the band concerts are happening this week, and I'm probably missing certain concerts, and I apologize, but concerts are happening last week and this week, and our music programs are just really impressive. Our students are really talented and dedicated and devoted, and it's just such a joy. And I appreciate all of the hard work that goes into that from our students and our staff and our teachers and accompanists and all of that. So thank you to all of our leaders who make that happen. And then lastly, I'll just share that I was also at the California School Board Association conference last week. That is correct. Okay, good. Thank you. I really appreciate the chance to be able to attend those conferences. There are ideas buzzing around in my mind, but that I won't share right now. But it's really inspiring. I got to hear some really important things being said about equity and about the way that we serve our students, all of our students, about the rights that students have to their education in the least restrictive environment, for it to be freely accessible to them, and those things are they're important reminders. It's really wonderful to get to have community with people and think through how we can disrupt systems that aren't working well, and how we can do the best that we can for each and every one of our students. And so I do appreciate district resources being made available so that we can attend those sessions and think about how we can continue to improve.
Trustee Haywood. Upwood.
Thank you. So I have Cornell-specific events coming up. There's the PTA Winter Craft Fair on Saturday between 10 and 2 in the multipurpose room. And then the following week, next week, community time at 8:30 on Wednesday or Tuesday. And then Coffee with Kat on the last day of school at 8:30 in the morning. That's on Friday, December the 19th. And also just a gentle reminder that for any of the food sort of centered, so potluck celebrations, just to remind people that we have a nut-free school district, so not to bring any items containing nuts onto campus. And one other thing is that I had the opportunity to visit the ACC last week with Superintendent Stone, which was a joy, those little tiny children. So really enjoyed that. So thank you to all the teachers there who hosted and so kindly showed us around. So that's it from me. Thank you.
I forgot one thing. There's an AMS auction that's happening right now that is live until the 12th. So I want to make sure that I say that. Very important fundraiser.
You sound like you have an active bid, actually.
Say it again. Oh. Do I have $1, $2? Okay, thank you.
Vice President Inglis.
Thank you. So I also had the opportunity to attend the conference last week, which was great. It was a good time to spend with my colleagues here and meet other board members. I also ran into a college friend who happens to be a board member in Roseville, which was really fun. There were a lot of great sessions. I attended some on chronic absenteeism and budgeting. The most interesting session was on the new SCOTUS ruling, Mahmood and Taylor. So that's very new, and it was just really helpful to see or to understand that every district seems to be struggling or having challenges understanding what it means and getting advice from the CSBA and having them explain where they think we are and where they think we need to go. So that was extremely interesting. I would say my biggest takeaway was from a special ed session, and it wasn't, the message actually resonated for a couple of different reasons, but the gentleman was expressing a lot of a message around making sure that parents, especially if they're concerned and scared for their student, always start with the teacher, and because the teacher has the best relationship or the most knowledge of the student, and not to jump to the principal or the superintendent, but if you're scared and nervous, speak to your teacher first. And he repeated that multiple times, and I realized that resonates actually not just with special ed, but with everything. And I know I hear parents say, well, I have this problem, what should I do? And I think the message should always be, please, we have amazing teachers. Start with your teacher, have a conversation with your teacher, and if you need to escalate beyond that, do that. But start there and build those relationships for your children. So that was a really big takeaway for me. And then in happy news, Friday is the last teacher appreciation for the high school teachers of the year. So if you can participate or show up and clean or set up, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Last week, I too had the opportunity to go to the annual meeting of the California School Boards Association, and I'll echo the words of my colleagues. It was great to really hear about the challenges and other districts are facing and kind of how they're tackling those sorts of issues and what have you. Wednesday's session led off with a debate between some of the gubernatorial candidates. And with respect to education, one of the candidates noted that California, while it's the world's fourth largest economy, is 21st in the nation in per pupil spending. We all know the importance of education, but we as a state are not funding districts with the resources to match our educational needs. Our districts, as even just sort of talked about, have their hands tied with funding that barely covers the basics and leaves no room to address the inflationary economy that we find ourselves in, let alone the flexibility to try new or innovative approaches to learning. So I'd like to encourage all members of the community to look to the state to help increase the funding for school districts and communities like ours. And that's the end of my report. And now we'll move on to the public hearing on the AUSD submission for application for a bond waiver, bond capacity waiver. CBO Wu, I think you're. That's all.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So this is a part of a process. This is the public hearing portion of us proposing that the board approves a resolution for the school district to obtain a bond capacity waiver with regards to being able to access our Measure L funds. Back in 2024, as you're all aware, we obtained bond funding that was approved, also known as Measure L. Borrowed $64 million. We haven't sold anything yet, but with regards to bond capacity and what that is, the district's assessed value is approximately $4.2 billion. We've already had old bond funds, I've been referred to call it old bond funds, that we've already used in $85 million. And now that we're borrowing an additional $64 million, that puts us over our limit of being able to borrow 2.5% of our assessed value. And so with the 85 million and the 64 million, we're currently at 3.59% debt limit. And so what we need to do is to just basically ask for an approval so that we can go ahead and apply for that bond waiver and access our funds and start working on our projects.
Thank you. So I think, and Julie, correct me here, before we go to the review and action part, we have to open a public hearing, is that right? I just say, now I'm opening the public hearing on the AUSD submission of application for bond capacity waiver, and I get to hit the, there you go. Any public comment, feel free to come forward.
And then you just click.
And now I get to close the public hearing and I get to bang the gavel again, so thank you. All right, there we go.
Right.
Now we move on to the review and action portion, I believe. And now I think we do the presentation, is that right? Is that,
well, we have like a full presentation prepared internally, but our bond advisors, ISOM advisors, did create one and prepare one that was presented to the Citizen Bond Oversight Committee on October 9th, of which they approved the waiver.
Are there any questions from the board, starting with student board members? Please. Public comment? Any comments on the measure? Okay. No comment. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve bonding capacity waiver and resolution number 2025-26-07.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Measure passes.
Thank you.
And now we'll move on to the to review and approve the reclassification criteria for multilingual learners.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight I'll be talking about and giving a brief overview of the state-required criteria that we use to reclassify English learners, or as we say in Albany, our multilingual learners, as reclassified as fluent English proficient. We're presenting this because there's been a shift in one of the assessments we're using due to a newly adopted assessment in our elementary schools. So before I dig into what's up on the screen, I'm going to share a bit of an overview about what the 4 required criteria are per ed code. The first is proficiency on the LPAC, the English Language Proficiency Exam. It's required for students to score an overall level 4 on that assessment to be considered for reclassification, or if they are a student with an IEP and they take an alternative assessment, a score of level 3. The second criteria is around the teacher's evaluation. We know the teachers are the ones who know kiddos the best, and so they assess students in terms of their readiness for to gradually release support around English development instruction. So that includes their classroom performance, how well they're mastering the content that they've been learning, their speaking ability in class, things like that. And the third criteria is around consultation with families. So we consult with parents or caregivers, we walk through the data and ensure that reclassification is appropriate. So there's input there. And the fourth criteria is the one that's new this year, so that's where I want to spend a little bit of time explaining. The fourth criteria is a demonstration of basic skills in English, and that's typically through either a standardized assessment, such as the KALB, or through a local assessment. A few years ago, before my time here, what I've learned through Michelle Sinclair, our district administrator on special assignment, who works closely with our designated ELD teachers, a few years ago, we adjusted our criteria because there was an understanding that we were perhaps holding some students back from reclassifying because the standard was a little bit too high. And so we adjusted the criteria to be rather than students must meet or exceed standard on the KASP, or what's listed as up here, the Smarter Balanced Summative Assessment. That's the same thing. There's an alternative process of standard nearly met on the KASP and scoring at or above on our local assessment, which in K5, the new assessment is DIBELS. So in our previous criteria, that adjustment was already made, and the change that's happening now for our local assessment is rather than FastBridge literacy, we're now using DIBELS because that's the assessment in K5. In terms of the process through which we sort of make sure, we're on the right track with supporting our multilingual learners in reclassifying, our Michelle Sinclair, our district administrator on special assignment, met with all our designated ELD teachers and reviewed the reclassification criteria from, I think it was 7 nearby districts, and found that our criteria is pretty much in line with the majority. There were a few districts who did have lower thresholds for reclassifying in the basic skills requirement, and we sort of found that our district was right there in the middle. And so we're really trying to strive to create an approach where students are reclassified when they've truly developed their English skills without creating barriers for reclassification. Because we do know that if a child is designated English learner for too long, in some cases that can mean later down the road, for example, at high school, that designated English course is taking the place of another course that they might need, for example, to be A to G, to be AG eligible. So that's something we're striving to strike the balance of, and our ELD teachers agree that this is criteria that will suit our students, and this was also recently brought to our District English Language Advisory Committee, DLAC, in October for the community to review. I think that's my summary, and I'm open to hearing any questions about that.
Questions? Comments from the public? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the reclassification criteria update for multilingual learners.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Motion passes. Thank you. Now we're bringing back CBO Wu for the first interim financial report.
Good evening again. I'm here to present to you tonight the first interim revision, budget revision. This is the first of 2 budget revisions since we adopted an original budget. I'm going to try my technology here today and see if I have some more luck. All right. I'll keep my fingers crossed. Just as a reminder, here we are in terms of like the calendar for the fiscal year. We're at first interim. It's information from July through October 31st. That's helping us to actually gauge our projections for the remainder of the year, and we are required to officially report that by December 15th. If I turn back the clock, I was recently at the Dickens Fair and there was a time machine, but I don't think I could borrow that, that image. But if I turn back the clock, what did we say back at budget adoption? So at budget adoption, we reminded folks that a budget is an actual plan of, based off of information that's available at that time. And it's driven by 3 primary factors. Enrollment, the students, tells us basically how much money we can expect to receive, and in turn, the money that we receive, then we could decide how we're actually going to spend that out. So back at budget adoption, enrollment was 3784. Attendance, our average daily attendance, or AKA ADA, was at 95.7%. Revenue was projected at 68 million, expenses a little more than 69. So ultimately, we're spending a little bit more of our current revenue that we were generating, putting us at minus $1 million at that time. I would like to point out that minimal carryover is usually adopted during budget season because the books haven't closed from the prior year to tell us what's left over. October wasn't that far away, but now it's already in the past. So as a quick reminder, where did we update you guys back in October? Enrollment was circling around still the 3,760s range. Revenues at 69.7%, no, not percent, dollars. $69.7 million, and our expenditures rose to $74 million. And if anyone remembers my concerned emoji, it's really the reason is that at that time, the books had officially closed and we knew what our leftover balances were, and our intentions of spending more revenue that we were taking in is mainly because we are required to spend down our restricted grants. So where are we today? Enrollment is still 37.67, is three higher is what we expected. Our ADA, as we're projecting for the remainder of the year, is 3594, and that's consistent with our historical average of 95.5%. The revenue projections for this is now updated to 69.6 million, and the expenses have risen to 75 million. So overall, we're saying that we're going to spend more than the revenue that we're generating by $5.4 million, but still it's primarily because we are still spending down our restricted grant funds. I had that expression putting in these numbers initially. So then, to take a deeper dive, where are we with first interim? I know it looks busy. I like the operating statement because really this is the snapshot that tells you specifically where the money is coming from, what was the ADA projections, where are we spending it, and where does that put the district at the end of the year? We're starting from the left to the right. I always like to have a baseline to compare it to. So we close the books. The first column you see, unaudited actuals, is basically where we ended last fiscal year. Beginning fund balance was projected at 10.7. I won't walk you through all the columns, but that's what the first column really is. We ended the year in excess of revenues by $1.6 million. First column all the way on the bottom. Next time I'll have a pointer so I can circle it. And then as I take you through, you see the columns where I provided an update for where we adopted the budget and also where our October revision is. First interim is where we want to focus on right now because carryover's in, enrollment's here. We want to know then, with our expenses and our commitments, where are we? So 3594 is our average daily attendance that we're basing this on. We're currently a little bit higher. but I took it down just because the attendance level was closer to 96%, 96.5%, and that's not consistent with the year's average. So I took it back down from where we were currently sitting at the end of October. The fund balance is $12 billion. Total revenue line item you'll see is that we're generating between the LCFF, federal, state, and local dollars is still about $69.5 million. Some of the local funds slightly went down, primarily because the rent that we were receiving from our school age program decreased based on usage, a decline in usage for the number of hours. It's a large calculation, but ultimately, the bottom line is the rental income went down as a result of using that facilities less. So then how does that impact our expenditures? Well, I know that I circled a few things here. The bottom line is the excess of revenues is projected to be $5.4 million, you saw on the previous slide. The materials increased primarily because carryover budgets are now available, restricted lottery for instructional materials we must spend on classroom instructional materials, and then we also had a major tech refresh for staff. In terms of services, it increased primarily because the carryover budgets were also loaded, but what were they? And I would like to emphasize that it is not consultant contracts, but we're contracting out for services to provide direct support for student needs. And I have more detail on that in subsequent slides. And then we also, of course, have to continue to fix things, and we had an increase in building repairs and maintenance costs. This is a further breakdown to hopefully clarify the questions that I receive often about the service contracts, because oftentimes people refer to service contracts as consultant contracts, and you can see here there's many factors of the types of expenses that rolls up under this category. 5100 sub-agreements and 5800s is where you would normally have contracted services. So if we had something with Seneca or with like a sub-provider or something like that, we classify it under 51 and the 5800s. Ignore the 5100, I'm gonna call it all contracted services because that's an accounting function. You also see that travel and mileage is a part of here, dues and memberships, our insurance, our utilities, repairs and maintenance. There's other categories that fall under services and contracts, and I wanna make sure that I clarify it's not just consultants or anything else like that. I did circle, however, for you, the two line items, 5100s and the 58s, that shows that there's a change of an increased cost of $434,000 up top, and on the 5800 line is $420,000. So you'll see approximately $800,000 in service costs went up. And on the notes side, I tried to outline for you what they were from. So special ed contracts driving an increase in service costs, I like to clarify too that some of these are in partnerships for one contractor to provide services also for gen ed students as well. So it's not all special ed. You'll see rural health was the largest increase that we found out we needed to contract out for, licensed nursing support and also para support. $106,000 is related to obtaining behavioral management support, $83,000 for speech language pathology, and $81,000 for non-public agency contracts, and $35,000 for resource teacher support. Some of these are needed because, quite frankly, like many types of positions across school districts, they're very difficult to fill. There's a shortage. And so with that, we still must make sure that we're providing the service to the students where it's needed. We can't delay that, and then so therefore, we're faced with having to contract out for that support. Quick refresher reference, unrestricted versus restricted. I kind of talked about that a little bit. The restricted is really the grant funds that must be spent. So here's the breakdown then of unrestricted and restricted. This is going to help us to determine then what do we look out for, and I can't use cloudy with a chance of meatballs. That's taken. It's cloudy with a chance of rain is what I think we're looking at right now. And the reason for that still, as I've said in past updates, is that there's still a lot of economic uncertainty out there. We don't know for sure how things are going to change, and every day the news, you turn on CNN, you know, whichever news station that you watch, CNBC, they're going to give you a different type of forecast on what's happening with our economy. And so I would like to make sure that we're cautious here. But the one thing I'd like to positively highlight with our first interim update is the green circles. The first one is that what we've discussed before, the additional 2% reserve that we want to set aside for the rainy day is still there, in addition to us making sure we maintain our required 3% reserve for economic uncertainty is also still there. The multi-year projection, what is that? It's not me standing on a cliff. I would like to say that first. But really, it's the outlook. Where do we see our district going in terms of our finances? A multi-year projection, I can't look in a crystal ball and say 100% certain this is where we're going to be. But what I can tell you is that based off of information that I have right now, I could tell you where that forecast is heading. Here's a busy summary of all the assumptions that primarily lead into telling us how much revenue we're going to get and how much money do we have to spend. So for our enrollment, you can see that for reference, we ended last year at approximately 3715 enrollment with 3545 ADA. So you can see that was approximately 95.4% attendance level. And for the subsequent years, I'm keeping it flat. As Superintendent Stone mentioned earlier, we're currently going through a more thorough budget development process right now, and we're fine-tuning what we think our enrollment projections will land at. In terms of revenue, what does that mean? So revenue for LCFF. FY26, as was mentioned in a previous slide as well, during the budget was adopted by the governor at 2.3% COLA for the current year. So we're good there. But what does that mean for the future years? Well, originally when I adopted the budget, FY27 was proposing a 3.02% COLA. And now with all the recent updates, as recent as just a week and a half ago, I received information that, well, the state revenue is going great, but it could fall somewhere between the COLA range of 1.27 to 2.53%. So rather than to guesstimate, yeah, 2.53 or doom and gloom at 1.27, I kept it flat for the time being until we find out more information. In terms of federal revenue, it's we don't have a lot of it to begin with, but I'm just keeping that flat. For the state funds, I did take out in the subsequent years the one-time discretionary block grant. If there happens to be some leftover funds from the current year, we'll just move that into a beginning fund balance for the next year and reassign that to appropriate expenditures and program planning. And then in terms of local revenue, a modest 3% annual increase for the parcel tax. For expenditures, step and column, I didn't put the percentage up there. The average step and column increase is actually 1.5%. But because there's a lot of factors that come into play when we're trying to project out compensation, I would refer to look at the multiple step and column tables that are posted on our website. The medical benefits is projected to increase at approximately 3% annually. And the reason why we do 3% annually is because on an annual basis, they go on a calendar year, and it's approximately 6% is where we think we're headed. But because we've already factored in half of that increase, we would just increase the remaining half for part of that next year. Materials and supplies, as we know, things are getting more and more expensive. Right now, the projection is that FY27, the cost, I call it like an inflation cost. It's a consumer price index, but it's really like an inflationary cost, maybe too low. But FY27 right now is proposing it to be a little bit at 2.82%, and in FY28 is 2.72%. I know that was a lot of assumptions put into play. So what does that mean then for our larger picture for the subsequent years? What can we expect based on what I just said? Well, we are deficit spending, as I mentioned, even at our first interim. And what deficit spending means is that we're typically basically burning into our savings account. We're tapping into our savings account to pay for some obligations and commitments that we've made. And it looks like if we continue to do business as usual, we will continue to slowly dip into that savings account. It's just like if you're at home and you set aside a couple $1,000s to pay for that vacation. It's probably not very far for a couple $1,000s. But ultimately, let's just say you set aside $2,000 for that, and then all of a sudden your PG&E bill came in $100 more per month. You see yourself paying $1,200 more in that year for just that PG&E bill, which means now that's going above your normal budget. You're gonna have to tap into that $2,000 vacation fund to pay for that increase. So that's how you should view like what deficit spending is. Expenditures, it's showing to me that it's outpacing our COLA. And I said it before, 2.3% COLA for revenue, but our cost of expenses is at least 2.8%, if not higher. So how does that end up impacting our reserve? I put in the red line the excess revenue over expenses because that's what's showing that we're tapping into our savings account to spend for our obligations and our commitments. Revolving cash, pretty consistent. Nothing really to highlight there other than if we're taking a look at our increase in the 2% reserve that we've been trying to hold ourselves to, we can't maintain that over time because we're slowly dipping into that savings account every year to continue to pay for that obligation. So you can see by the time we get to FY28, I put a yellow line around the 722,000 because that additional reserve, not required, but additional reserve is now down to 1% instead of 2%. The green line means that at minimum, we're still able to meet our 3% obligation, required reserve. This just is just, I like to break out unrestricted, restricted. So this is just a summary again of our restricted funds. This is illustrating to me that we are spending down our restricted grant balances, which is okay. And this just shows you the larger picture. If you combine both again, this is what the impact would be. So what are the next steps? I don't want to sound like repetitive over Superintendent Stone update already, but the main thing is January 13, we're having a board study session on budget priorities. I think that's really important to get feedback, input, to discuss how do we approach making those decisions. January 2026, didn't set a date yet, but we're intending to hold a budget town hall. Superintendent Stone and I will be holding a budget town hall to discuss kind of what I went over today and also what we're planning to do as we develop next year's budget. March 10th is our second opportunity to revise the budget again based off of activity. The good news is that we have our outlook for the first interim right now, and it tells us what we need to pay more attention to as we approach the second revision in March. May, the governor's May revision, go through that whole rigmarole to create initial assumptions to develop a budget, but depending on what happens in May, that could change everything, and we will help to rapidly kind of turn things around for you all to meet the public hearing expected for June 9th. And then, of course, approve an adopted budget by June 23rd is what we intend to do for the next fiscal year. That concludes the presentation portion. Any questions?
Any questions from the board?
I want to make sure I understand. Could you go back to slide 17?
Yes.
So the last column is your estimate with all the, assuming all the assumptions from the previous, that slide of your assumptions, right?
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that what you're showing there is two separate areas of our reserve, correct?
Yes.
We have, in that scenario, we have 722,000 in our additional reserve, but our total ending still meets the 3%. Is that how I should understand it? First line.
Sorry, this is in a format that we have to formally submit our information to the county as well, so I'll do my best to try to talk to you about what's really left over. So this is the combined total of unrestricted and restricted funds. And so on that last column by FY28, I'm saying that the combined balance that we could expect at the end of that fiscal year is $4 million. And we will be able to meet our minimal 3% reserve obligation,
Which is the 2.1.
the 2.168 million. Yes. Great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll just say I'm skeptical on the. I appreciate the presentation and the really actually excellent explanation of kind of how things are moving. So I appreciate that. I'm a little skeptical of only a 3% increase in healthcare, but I guess we'll see what actually happens on that. But I think I appreciate your other assumptions for sure. Do we have any public comment on this before we go to motion? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the first interim?
I move to approve the first interim budget.
Second.
Any discussion of the motion? Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're moving on to the consent calendar. Does anybody have any items they want to look at on the consent calendar, or do we want to approve that as is?
I just want to seek some clarification about item J on the consent calendar, which is the contract, the amendment to the contract with Emergis Healthcare Staffing. Dr. Biggs, I just had a quick question, just for clarification. So I see that the original contract was the speech and language pathologist, and then the amendment, it looks like it's a school psychologist. Is that correct? So it's not that we've suddenly increased the expenditure, it's more that we've added another position. Is that
Yeah, the position for the school psychologist is to fill a leave.
right?
Or school psychologist will be on leave in the spring.
Okay, so that's the only reason, and we just found out about that presumably more recently because we approved the initial contract back in November.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of it is trying to find someone that's going to be able to fill a leave. There's different agencies that we work with, and just so happens after we did the contract originally with Emergis for the speech and language pathologist, they later then proposed a candidate, which we wanted to go forward with.
Great. Thank you for the clarification.
Anyone else have anything on the consent calendar? Do we do public comment? No. Do we do public comment on the consent calendar? Do we? Any public comment on the consent calendar? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we're on to future board meetings and agenda planning. Any future topics that people want to add to the future agendas? Trustee Hopwood.
It was, I know we've got it on our radar, but we need to do our board committee and school assignments fairly soon. So I'm hoping we have the first meeting as our budget study session. I'm wondering whether we can.
I believe that's the plan, but we'll.
Perfect.
No.
Great. Thank you. That's my only suggestion.
Anything else? Oh, Trustee Shepherd.
Trustee Boyd mentioned it last meeting, but also revisiting the controversial issues topic.
Anything else? Okay, I think we're moving on to closed session. In closed session, we will discuss potential litigation, personnel matters, public employee performance evaluation, and a negotiations update. Before we go into closed session, are there any comments from the public? Being none, I move to closed session. Thank you. Reconvening from closed session. In terms of report outs from closed session, the board approved the performance goals for the superintendent, and the board approved giving the superintendent the power to enter into negotiations with the unions. I think that's it. So I move to adjourn the meeting at 9:03.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.